Hello everybody, this is TJ with the PTU Trend Jumper and netpicks.com. If you've been following along these past few days, you would know that the Dow E-mini had a really great week last week, posting 170 points, only having 2 losing trades the entire week. It was a really great week to finish the month of July and to start August. One of the keys to success with the Trend Jumper, with the Dow E-mini, and all the markets that we trade are the various dynamics that we employ in our strategy. When I say dynamic, I'm referring to the elements of the chart and the strategy that adjust to market conditions. It tunes itself in real time as the market conditions change, and we all know market conditions can change moment to moment, day to day, week to week, month to month. When you're day trading, you're really focused on moment to moment. So what I thought I would do is show you one of the key elements of the Trend Jumper strategy, the actual trade profile, specifically the targets. With the Trend Jumper, the target is constantly changing on every setup, adjusting itself to market conditions as market conditions are constantly changing. Of course, when I talk about adjusting and changing, I'm not referring to targets that start out in one place and then constantly move to another place. The Trend Jumper is based on the close of the bar. And once the bar closes, you get a setup, and those targets never change. For example, on this one here at the right edge of the chart, you can see there's a trade setup. This trade is here now forever. This is now a part of the history of this chart. It will never change. So, some strategies you get repainting where the strategy is always changing its target and you get into a trade, and while you're in the trade the target moves somewhere else. No, that's not what happens with Trend Jumper. What happens with Trend Jumper is bar after bar, once the bar closes, it is adjusting to market conditions and will print the trade according to how it's tuned itself. Okay, so you never have to worry about a trade changing once it is printed. So let me take you through a couple trades and point it out to you, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Let's go back to the 28th Monday of July, the beginning of last week, as if we were going to start our session coming in fresh after a nice weekend, hopefully, of relaxation. For me, it was a weekend of traveling. All right, so let's just click forward as if we're going to start our session. We start trading the Dow E-mini at 8:32 a.m. Central Standard Time. That's 9:32 New York time. I always set my charts to exchange time. So no matter where I am in the world, I know exactly what time the session is supposed to start. So when the market opens up at 9:30, it's 8:30 in Chicago. There's a setup here right at 8:30. We're going to wait 2 minutes as per our trade plan, and you can see that it would have triggered in here, but it's still only 8:30, or actually 8:31. So we have to wait. And now you can see that it comes back down, and it actually would have triggered in. It's 8:34. This is definitely a time when we would be interested in this trade. But once the price stabbed down and then bounced back up, it showed us where there's some possible near-term support. And so we're going to make a tiny adjustment on this entry and make it break that level. Okay, so the entry is at 16.878. It's stabbed down to 16.877. We're going to put our order in at 16.876 right here. Okay, and the reason why we do this is because we're reading price action, and the price showed us that there's some possible support right at that level, and I want to break through it. I want to have a little extra confirmation. And look what happens. Instead, it's unable to break through, and it actually moves higher, and it ultimately would have stopped out, but because of our smart rules of not getting in until 8:32 and then making it break through the near-term support, which was only a tick off the entry, we're able to save a trade. That's part of the reason that Trend Jumper is successful. And this is another element of the dynamics that we employ when we're reading price action and reading the charts. So we're still waiting for our first setup. And this takes me to the subject of this video, dynamic targets. Okay, so ultimately we get another setup to go short right here. Does it trigger in? Yes, it does. Now, here's what I wanted to show you. Notice on this first trade that the entry was from 78 to 62. That's 16 ticks. We're going to go to the middle target with the Dow E-mini. All right, look at the size of this trade. You see, the market conditions has changed from here to here. Volatility has come back into the market in relationship to what we had coming into the session. Notice that coming into the session is pretty tight, pretty sideways, no real range. This market is getting ready to break out, and you could tell because of the setup expanding based on how the trend jumper works. Notice that this entry goes from 68 to 46, 22 points. So before we had a 16-point trade, this one here, 22 points. And that one does trigger in. That ends up being the first trade of the day right there. And look what happens. It zooms down, retraces in a very healthy way, and then ultimately bangs right on through, hits our target right here, and we're out with 22 points. And that actually is our goal for the session, and we finish the session one and done. We're up 22 points. Now, we could trade Trend Jumper with 2 positions, and in fact we do. And in tomorrow's video, I'm going to show you how we trail a second position. Let's look at one more example pertaining to dynamic targets. In this example, we're going to look at the Euro-Aussie. It's a Forex chart using daily bars. Look over here at the right. And with Forex, we can take part of our profit off at each target level. Okay, but because I just showed you the middle target on the Dow E-mini, let's just focus in on the middle target for now. We'll keep it real simple, and you'll notice the size of this trade. It's a good size trade. It goes from 47.56 down to 45.06. Okay, and I'm rounding that extra digit. All right, so that's a good size trade, right? That's about 250 pips, give or take, to that middle target. So look what happens. It triggers in, comes down, hits that first target. Remember, we're just going to focus on the middle target, and then all of a sudden we get a new setup right there. And that's a much smaller setup. Notice that this setup here goes from 46.14 down to 44.88. All right, so a much smaller trade, about 135 pips, give or take, right? Do we want to ignore this setup? One of the great things about Forex is that we can customize our position size. So I've seen these setups before, and they could work out really nicely. In this case, it opens up below the entry and then comes back up, and it ultimately stops out. So there's a small loss there, but this short is still going, right? And that's still in action. All right, look at where that stop is. It's right up in here. So it actually holds and it comes back down, and we get a new setup. And look at the size of this trade, from 46.05 to 43.78. That's a good size trade. You know, it's roughly 220 pips or so. Similar to this one. That one triggers in, and look what happens. We get another small little trade, much like the one before. Now this one didn't work out. Okay? This trade is still going. This trade is triggered in. Notice that that stop is perfectly placed. And now we have another setup here. Okay? Now you go into these trades with very small risk, so you can take advantage of each of these setups. Look what happens. On the very next day, it stabs through. It comes down. It hits all the targets. Okay? Remember, we're going to the middle target. So that's a full winner right there. This trade is still going. This trade is still going. And then it comes on down, and it hits both targets. A couple days later, it hits this target over here. A couple days after that, it hits this target over here. Okay, now remember, you could go to the third target as well, in which case you would have hit that as well. This one almost got there, got a little bit past the second, not quite. So all in all, this is a very successful trade, taking advantage of each one of these setups. Each one of these setups is its own trade plan, dynamically tuned to market conditions at the right edge of the chart in real time. One of them didn't quite work out, but I'll take 3 winners and 1 loss anytime. Notice the importance of dynamic targets. When this one came down and hit that middle target, that was about as far as it wanted to go before it actually turned around and went back up the other direction. At the point when that trade took place, this trade was tuned to market conditions. The trend jumper targets are typically very accurate. Now, what happens when a trade overshoots the target and we're already out of the trade? Well, tomorrow I'm going to talk to you about trading the second position and how we utilize the trend jumper indicators to actually trail a second position. So in case we do overshoot the target, we're able to take advantage of the big running moves. They happen often enough to want to be able to capture them. So come back tomorrow and I will show you exactly how we do that with the trend jumper. Thanks for joining me, everybody. This is TJ with the PTU Trend Jumper and netpicks.com. Hope to see you tomorrow.